Hello, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be building a computer and I'm going to be building it into a 3D printed case designed by Maker Unit. So it's going to be time lapse of me building a computer and I'll talk about thermals and all the specs of the computer afterwards. So let's get started. And this is the result of that build. Unfortunately, my camera cut out midway through the time lapse. The computer itself is not the most powerful, but it does the job. The CPU is an i5 7400 processor, and the GPU is a 3060 Ti from Asus. These may not be the best to test the thermals of the case, however these are the components I have in hand to test this case with. Let's jump into the thermal test and see how it performs. The first test of thermals I done was the Heaven benchmark test. This allows us to see and have an accurate idea of the thermals inside the computer when it's under full load. While on the load, the GPU at this highest temperature got up to 73 degrees, whereas the CPU got up to 59 eventually at the end of the benchmark. These temps in theory should not cause any issues to the 3D printed case. I did 3D print this in PLA. This may cause issues if you have higher end hardware which may be running at a high temperature. If that is the case, I recommend 3D printing this case out of PETG. The next test I done was in Battlefield 4. Yes, I know it's not the newest game on the market, but it's a good balance of average games being played as well decent game to test thermals. The temps I got while playing Battlefield 4 were mid 60s to high 60s. The airflow in this case is providing more than enough airflow through this computer to make sure nothing is overheating. Also help prevent any warping over time as heat is transferred into the print itself. Is there anything I would change for this build? Yes, it'll be the material I use for the case itself because I use PLA, which is not too bad, it's cheap and affordable. However, it is much more sensitive to heat. So in the future I might change to a PETG to help with that. Hopefully next time I do one of these cases I'll have better components to test the thermals of the print itself so I can see if there's any issues with the case and if it has any thermal problems, either not enough airflow or the print itself is melting. But this case with these low end parts and an PLA will do the job perfectly fine. Honestly, if it had better components than my daily driver, I would switch this in a heartbeat because it's small, compact and it fits on my desk out of the way. But what do you think? Do you think if you could, would you get a 3D printed case? Because in this price point, it only cost me like what, 34 quid to print this? And like that's nothing compared to most mini ITX cases costing around about 60 odd quid to a few hundred odd quid for a decent case. But what does this computer sound like? Well, let's find out. It is surprisingly quiet except from the fan which I didn't have the right size to, so it's just kind of hanging there on like one screw. But if it was in there properly, I think it'd be much quieter, which I might mod to change to make it sound better. But please tell me in the comments, would you have a 3D printed case for your setup? And until next time,